You know, nothing says romance like proposing in a rooftop bar next to a guy FaceTiming his dog. But there I was, Nate Sloane, 31 years old, mid-level IT analyst extraordinaire, down on one knee with a ring that cost me 3 months' salary, watching my girlfriend of 4 years stare at me like I just asked her to help me hide a body. "Erica," I said, my voice cracking slightly despite all my rehearsals in the mirror, "will you marry me?" The Seattle skyline twinkled behind us, the Space Needle looking like a giant middle finger pointed at the universe. How fitting. Erica Miller, 29, marketing manager at Zenith Digital, social media queen with her perfectly curated Instagram feed, looked down at me with those green eyes that had captivated me since college. "Oh, Nate," she said, and I knew immediately that those 2 words were the beginning of the end. I'm not ready for this step yet." The guy with the dog stopped his FaceTime call to stare. Great. Even strangers were witnessing my humiliation. I stood up slowly, my knees protesting against the cold concrete. "Not ready? We've been together for 4 years, Erica. We live together. We have a joint Netflix account." She laughed, that tinkling sound that used to make my heart skip but now felt like nails on a chalkboard. "That's exactly why we don't need to rush into marriage, baby. We're already practically married." Practically married. Right, like practically pregnant or practically gone. "Okay," I said, sliding the ring back into my pocket. "Okay, I get it." But I didn't get it. Not really. Not until 3 days later when my phone buzzed with a notification from the group chat Erica's Squad, a chat I'd somehow remained in despite never participating. The message was from Erica herself. "OMG, girls, you should have seen Nate's proposal attempt. So cringe. Thank God I said no." The secondhand embarrassment was real. He literally did it next to some weirdo talking to his dog on FaceTime. Jenna Martinez replied immediately, "No way. Poor guy, though." Priya Chen chimed in, "I mean, you've been saying you're not feeling it anymore anyway, probably for the best." Erica, "Exactly. Like, I love him, but marriage? With him? I need someone with more ambition, more excitement." I stared at my phone, sitting in my cubicle at Dataflow Solutions, surrounded by the gentle hum of servers and the clicking of keyboards. My coworkers went about their business, oblivious to the fact that my world was crumbling in real time via group text. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. "Wow, Erica. Really dodged a bullet there. Thanks for letting me know how you really feel." The chat went silent. Then, within seconds, my phone started ringing. Erica's name flashed on the screen. "Nate! Oh my God, I didn't realize you were still in that chat." Clearly. "Look, I didn't mean it like that." "Like what? Like you think I'm unambitious? Like you're embarrassed by me? Like you've been lying to my face for God knows how long?" I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end. "Nate, please, can we talk about this at home?" "Sure," I said. "But first, I think your mom should know that the wedding she's already started planning isn't happening." Before she could respond, I hung up and opened my contacts. Mrs. Miller had been texting me for weeks about venue options and flower arrangements. Time to break the news. I forwarded the screenshots of the group chat to Erica's mother with a simple message. "Thought you should know the wedding's off. Sorry you had to find out this way, but apparently so did I." My phone exploded with calls and texts. First Mrs. Miller, then Erica, then numbers I didn't recognize. I turned it off and went back to work, fixing server configurations and pretending my life wasn't imploding. When I got home that evening, Erica was waiting in our shared apartment, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. "My mother called me screaming," she said without preamble. I bet she did. "She's already put deposits down on 3 different venues, Nate. She's been planning this wedding for months. Maybe you should have thought about that before mocking me to your friends." Erica stood up from the couch, her hands clenched into fists. "I was venting. Girls vent to each other. It doesn't mean I don't love you." "Really? Because Priya seemed to think you've been not feeling it for a while now. Care to elaborate on that?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. In that silence, I heard everything I needed to know. "I've been working late a lot lately," I said, watching her face carefully. "Funny thing is, so have you. Lots of client dinners and team-building exercises. When did marketing become such a demanding field?" Her face went pale. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Are you seeing someone else?" "No. God, Nate, why would you even—" "Because you just told your friends that you need someone with more ambition and excitement. Because you've been coming home late 3 nights a week for the past 2 months. Because you guard your phone like it contains nuclear launch codes." As if summoned by my words, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a preview of a text from Kyle B. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night." We both stared at the phone. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "Who's Kyle?" I asked quietly. He's a coworker. A coworker who sends you kissing emojis. It's not what you think. What I think," I interrupted, "is that you've been cheating on me while I was planning to propose. What I think is that you've been lying to me for months. What I think is that you're a coward who can't even break up with me honestly." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. "Nate, please, save it." I grabbed my laptop bag and headed for the door. "I'll be staying at Connor's tonight. We can figure out the apartment situation later." "Where are you going?" I paused at the door. "To find out exactly how long you've been making a fool of me." Connor Walsh had been my best friend since college, and his reaction to my story was exactly what I expected, a string of profanity that would make a sailor blush, followed by an immediate offer of his couch and a beer. "Kyle Brandt," he said, typing furiously on his laptop. "Found him. Works at Zenith Digital, same company as Erica. Marketing coordinator. Drives a modded BMW. Posts gym selfies like they're going out of style. Jesus, look at this guy." I leaned over to see Connor's screen. Kyle's Instagram was a monument to narcissism. Shirtless photos, expensive watches, pictures of his car, and, my stomach dropped, several photos of him at company events with Erica in the background. "Look at the dates," Connor said grimly. "This party photo is from 3 months ago. Look how they're standing together." In the photo, Kyle had his arm around Erica's waist, both of them laughing at something off camera. They looked comfortable, familiar, like a couple. 3 months, I muttered. "She's been cheating on me for 3 months. Maybe longer. Social media only shows what people want you to see." My phone buzzed. A text from Erica. "Nate, please come home. We need to talk. I can explain everything." I showed Connor the message. He snorted. "Yeah, I bet she can. Probably has a whole story ready about how it just happened and how sorry she is." "I need proof," I said. "Real proof. Not just Instagram photos and suspicious texts." "What kind of proof?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Nate, this is Mrs. Miller. I think we need to talk." Erica's mother sounded like she'd been crying. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown, curious about what she might know. Mrs. Miller was waiting at a corner table when I arrived, clutching a tissue and looking older than her 55 years. "I'm so sorry, Nate," she said as I sat down. "I had no idea Erica felt that way about you. The things she said in those messages. It's not your fault, Mrs. Miller. Call me Janet, and it is my fault, partly. I raised her to think she deserved better than whatever she had. I pushed her to always reach higher, never settle. I think I created a monster." She pulled out her own phone. "After you sent me those screenshots, I called Erica. We had words. But then I started thinking about some things I'd noticed." "What kind of things?" "She's been lying about where she spends her weekends. 2 weeks ago, she told me she was having a girls' weekend in Portland with Jenna and Priya. But Jenna posted on Facebook about being at her sister's wedding in Spokane that same weekend." "Where was she really?" "I don't know, but I have an idea." Janet slid a piece of paper across the table. "Kyle Brandt's address. I may be old, but I know how to use Google. That evening, Connor and I sat in his car outside Kyle's luxury apartment building in Belltown. It felt like something out of a bad detective movie, but I needed to know the truth. There," Connor said, pointing. "Blue BMW. License plate matches the Instagram photos." We waited for 2 hours before Erica's car pulled into the parking garage. She emerged wearing a dress I'd never seen before, carrying an overnight bag. "Son of a bastard," I whispered. My phone was in my hand, recording, when Kyle appeared at the garage entrance. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, muscular, with the kind of confident swagger that screamed, "I peak in my 30s. He kissed Erica like he owned her. They disappeared into the building together. "Well," Connor said, "there's your proof. But I wanted more than proof. I wanted justice. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day crafting my revenge. If Erica wanted to humiliate me privately, I'd return the favor publicly." I started with her mother. Janet had given me permission to share anything I discovered, and she was more than happy to help expose her daughter's lies. A few phone calls later, and half of Erica's extended family knew about the affair. Then I moved on to social media. I created a group chat with all of Erica's college friends, people who knew both of us, who had been expecting wedding invitations. I shared the screenshots of her mocking my proposal, along with the photos I'd taken of her entering Kyle's building. The response was immediate and brutal. OMG, Erica, this is so not cool. Poor Nate, how could you do this to him? Wait, Kyle Brandt, isn't he married? That last message stopped me cold. Married? A quick Facebook search confirmed it. Kyle Brandt, married to Sabrina Brandt for 6 years. 2 kids. His profile was full of happy family photos. Erica wasn't just cheating on me. She was helping Kyle cheat on his wife and children. I screenshotted everything and sent it to the college friends group chat. Then, feeling particularly vindictive, I found Sabrina Brandt's Facebook profile and sent her a private message with all the evidence. My phone started ringing within minutes. Erica. What the hell are you doing? She screamed as soon as I answered. Telling the truth. You should try it sometime. You're ruining my life. Funny, I thought you already did that yourself. Nate, please, you have to stop this. Kyle's wife is threatening to call his work, and my friends are all what? Realizing what kind of person you really are. I could hear Kyle's voice in the background, angry and panicked. This is harassment, Erica said. I could call the police. For what? Sharing screenshots of things you actually said? Photos I took in a public place? Good luck with that. I hung up and turned to Connor, who had been listening with undisguised glee. Phase 2? He asked. Phase 2? The beautiful thing about working in IT is that you understand how interconnected everyone's digital lives really are. Erica thought she could compartmentalize her betrayal, keep her professional life separate from her personal drama. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Zenith Digital's company directory was surprisingly easy to access once you knew where to look. I didn't hack anything. That would be illegal. But public LinkedIn profiles, company social media accounts, and a little social engineering went a long way. I started with Kyle's colleagues. A few anonymous emails to the right people, complete with screenshots and photos, and suddenly the entire marketing department knew about Kyle's extracurricular activities. The tech industry in Seattle is smaller than people think, and gossip travels fast. Dude, this is brutal, Connor said, watching me work from his kitchen table. You're like a digital assassin. I prefer Truth Distributor, I replied, crafting another carefully worded email. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Sabrina Brandt. We need to talk. We met at a Starbucks in Capitol Hill. Sabrina was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of the devastated wife I'd imagined, she was calm, collected, and absolutely furious in the most controlled way possible. Thank you for telling me, she said without preamble. I've suspected for months, but Kyle is very good at covering his tracks. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Are you? Because from what I can see, you're enjoying destroying both of them quite thoroughly. I couldn't deny it. Maybe I am. Good. I want to help. Sabrina, it turned out, was a family law attorney. She knew exactly how to hurt Kyle where it mattered most, his wallet and his reputation, but more importantly, she had access to his phone records, credit card statements, and a treasure trove of evidence about his affair with Erica. Hotel receipts, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Restaurant bills. He's been using our joint credit card to wine and dine your girlfriend for 3 months. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected. Right, ex-girlfriend. The question is, how far are you willing to take this? What do you mean? I mean, I can destroy Kyle professionally and personally, divorce him, take half his assets, make sure everyone in the Seattle legal community knows what kind of man he is. But if we coordinate our efforts... She didn't need to finish the sentence. I understood. What did you have in mind? The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Zenith Digital was hosting their annual client appreciation party the following week, a big fancy affair with all the major players in Seattle's tech scene. Both Erica and Kyle would be there, probably trying to keep up appearances while their personal lives imploded. Sabrina had connections at the venue. I had technical skills and a comprehensive collection of evidence. Together, we could orchestrate the kind of public humiliation that would end both their careers and their relationship. But first, I wanted to have a little fun. Kyle's BMW was parked in the same spot every morning at 8:30 a.m. The parking garage at his building had cameras, but there were blind spots if you knew where to look. I didn't damage the car. That would be vandalism. Instead, I left a note under his windshield wiper. Your wife knows, your coworkers know, everyone knows. Maybe it's time to find a new job and a new city. A concerned citizen. I also may have loosened his tire valve caps just enough that his tires would slowly deflate over the course of the day. Not dangerous, just inconvenient. The real masterpiece, though, was what I did to his smart home system. Kyle was the kind of guy who bragged about his high-tech apartment on social media. Smart locks, voice-activated everything, automated lighting, and temperature control. He'd posted videos of himself commanding his Alexa to dim the lights and play music, showing off for his Instagram followers. What he didn't realize was that his home network security was about as robust as a paper bag. A little social engineering with his internet provider, a few educated guesses about his passwords. His Instagram posts were a goldmine of personal information, and I had access to his entire smart home ecosystem. I waited until I knew he and Erica were inside, probably having a romantic dinner while discussing how to handle their respective relationship disasters. Then I started the show. First, I cranked the temperature to 85 degrees. Then I turned all the lights to maximum brightness and set them to strobe mode. Finally, I activated every smart speaker in the apartment and started playing Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell at maximum volume. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Kyle screaming over the music. "What the hell is wrong with your girlfriend?" "Ex-girlfriend," I corrected, "and I have no idea what you're talking about. She's hacking my apartment." "That's a pretty serious accusation. Do you have any proof?" The music cut off abruptly. I'd programmed it to stop after 2 minutes, just long enough to make the point, not long enough to cause any real damage or bring the police. "This isn't over," Kyle snarled. "You're right," I agreed. "It's not." The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Erica had apparently spent the night trying to convince Kyle that I was some kind of criminal mastermind, while Kyle had spent it trying to reset his smart home system and figure out how I'd gained access. But the best message came from Sabrina. Phase 1 complete. Kyle's been suspended from work pending an investigation into his conduct. Apparently, someone sent his boss some very interesting photos. Ready for Phase 2? I was more than ready. The Zenith Digital Client Party was being held at the Columbia Tower Club, one of Seattle's most prestigious venues. 76 floors above the city, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains. It was the kind of place where careers were made and broken, where the city's tech elite came to see and be seen. Erica would be there in her capacity as a marketing manager, probably trying to do damage control on her professional reputation. Kyle would be there too, assuming his suspension got lifted in time. If not, he'd probably show up anyway. His ego wouldn't let him miss such an important networking event. Sabrina had used her connections to get me added to the guest list as her +1. Recently divorced, she'd told the organizers. Looking to get back out there? The plan was simple. Wait for the right moment, then unleash 4 months of carefully collected evidence on an audience of their peers, clients, and industry leaders. No violence, nothing illegal, just the truth, presented at the most damaging possible moment. I spent the week preparing, organizing screenshots and photos into a coherent narrative, practicing my timing. Connor insisted on coming as moral support, somehow talking his way onto the guest list through a college friend who worked in marketing. "This is either going to be the most epic revenge in history," he said as we got dressed for the party, "or we're both going to end up in jail." "Worth it either way," I replied, adjusting my tie. As we rode the elevator up to the 76th floor, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For months, I'd been the victim in this story. The clueless boyfriend, the butt of private jokes, the fool who proposed to a woman who was already planning her exit strategy. Tonight, that was going to change. The Columbia Tower Club was exactly as pretentious as I'd expected. Seattle's tech elite mingled with cocktails and canapes, their conversations a mixture of startup jargon and barely concealed backstabbing. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out below us like a circuit board, all glittering lights and geometric patterns. I spotted Erica immediately. She was near the bar, wearing a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, laughing at something a silver-haired man in an expensive suit was saying. Her laugh seemed forced, and I could see the tension in her shoulders even from across the room. Kyle was harder to find, but I eventually spotted him near the appetizer table, talking animatedly with a group of younger guys who looked like they worked in sales. His suspension had apparently been lifted, or he was just brazen enough to show up anyway. Target acquired, Connor murmured beside me, following my gaze. Both of them, I confirmed. Sabrina appeared at my elbow, elegant in a navy blue dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "Everything's in place," she said, quietly. "The AV tech owes me a favor from a case I handled last year. When you're ready, just give me the signal." The evening's program was predictable. Networking cocktails, a brief presentation from the company's CEO about their recent successes, then more networking and dancing. The presentation was scheduled for 8:30, which gave me time to position myself strategically and make sure both Erica and Kyle would be in the audience. I spent the first hour circulating, making small talk with people I'd never see again, keeping one eye on my targets. Erica seemed to be working the room hard, probably trying to rebuild her professional network after the damage I'd already done. Several people I spoke with mentioned hearing rumors about drama at Zenith Digital, though they were too polite to ask for details directly. Kyle, meanwhile, was drinking heavily and getting louder as the evening progressed. I overheard him telling someone that his crazy ex-girlfriend's boyfriend was stalking him, trying to ruin his life out of jealousy. The irony was delicious. At 8:25, the lights dimmed and everyone gathered in the main presentation area. A small stage had been set up at one end of the room with a large screen for the CEO's slide presentation. I positioned myself near the back, with a clear view of both Erica and Kyle, who had ended up on opposite sides of the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," the CEO began, "thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate another successful year at Zenith Digital." I tuned out the corporate speak and focused on my phone, making sure the files I'd prepared were ready to go. Photos, screenshots, audio recordings, 4 months of evidence organized into a devastating timeline of lies and betrayal. The CEO was wrapping up his presentation when I caught Sabrina's eye and nodded. She discreetly made her way toward the AV booth. "And now," the CEO said, "I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments from our valued clients and partners." This was my moment. I raised my hand. "I have something I'd like to share." The CEO looked surprised but gestured for me to come forward. "Of course, Mr. Sloane. Nate Sloane." I walked to the microphone, aware that every eye in the room was on me. Erica had gone pale, and Kyle was frantically whispering something to the guy next to him. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, my voice carrying clearly through the room's sound system. "I wanted to talk tonight about truth, trust, and accountability in professional relationships." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This clearly wasn't the kind of comment they'd been expecting. "You see, I recently discovered that someone I trusted completely had been lying to me for months. Not just personal lies, but professional ones too. Lies that affected not just me, but innocent families, workplace dynamics, and the integrity of business relationships." Erica was shaking her head frantically, trying to catch the CEO's attention. Kyle had started pushing through the crowd toward the stage. "I think it's important for everyone here to know exactly what kind of people they're doing business with," I continued, "so I'd like to share some evidence with you." I gave Sabrina the signal. The CEO's presentation slides disappeared, replaced by a screenshot of Erica's group chat message mocking my proposal. A collective gasp went up from the crowd. Someone laughed nervously. "This is from my ex-girlfriend, Erica Miller, one of your marketing managers," I said, pointing to where Erica stood frozen in horror. "She's talking about rejecting my marriage proposal, which would be her right, of course, except for one small detail." The next slide appeared, photos of Erica entering Kyle's apartment building. She was already in a relationship with Kyle Brandt, your marketing coordinator, a relationship that had been going on for months while she was still living with me. Kyle had reached the front of the crowd and was shouting something, but his voice was drowned out by the growing murmur of conversation from the audience. "Now, infidelity is a personal matter," I continued, "but it becomes a professional issue when it affects other people's lives. Kyle, you see, is married, has been for 6 years, 2 beautiful children." The screen showed Kyle's Facebook profile, full of happy family photos. "His wife, Sabrina, is here tonight. Sabrina, would you like to say something?" Sabrina stepped forward, her voice clear and steady as she took the microphone. "Thank you, Nate. I'd like everyone to know that Kyle has been using company credit cards and expense accounts to finance his affair. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, weekend trips, all charged to Zenith Digital as client entertainment." She nodded, and the screen filled with credit card statements and receipts, all clearly showing Kyle's name and Zenith Digital's account information. The CEO's face had gone from confused to furious. Several people in the crowd were taking photos and videos with their phones. "This is harassment," Erica finally found her voice, pushing through the crowd toward the stage. "You can't do this." "Actually, I can," I said calmly. "Everything I'm showing is true, and most of it is public record. Your group chat messages, your social media posts, Kyle's expense reports, all things you chose to put in writing." Kyle had reached the stage and was trying to climb up. "You son of a bastard, I'll make you pay." Security appeared from nowhere, restraining Kyle as he lunged toward me. The crowd was in chaos now, some people trying to get closer to see what was happening, others heading for the exits. "The really beautiful part," I said, raising my voice over the commotion, "is that this whole thing started because Erica was embarrassed by my proposal. She thought I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't exciting enough. Well, Erica, how's this for excitement?" The final slide appeared on screen, a recording of Erica's voice from the night I'd confronted her about Kyle, her desperate attempt to seduce me back into the relationship. We can spin this, Nate. We're better together. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Erica's face crumpled. She turned and ran for the exit, pushing past startled party guests and security personnel. Kyle had stopped struggling against the security guards and was staring at the screen in defeat. The CEO was speaking rapidly into his phone, probably to his legal team. I stepped back from the microphone, my heart pounding with adrenaline and satisfaction. The crowd was still buzzing with conversation, phones were still recording, and I could already imagine how fast this story would spread through Seattle's interconnected tech community. Ladies and gentlemen, I said one final time, thank you for your attention. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I walked off the stage and through the crowd, which parted in front of me like I was carrying a contagious disease. Connor was waiting near the elevators, grinning like a maniac. Dude, he said as the elevator doors closed behind us. That was the most savage thing I've ever witnessed. Through the elevator's glass walls, I could see storm clouds gathering over Elliott Bay, lightning flickering in the distance. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. The storm I'd been building for months had finally broken, and the lightning had struck exactly where I'd aimed it. My phone was already buzzing with notifications, text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. The story was spreading faster than I'd even hoped. As we descended toward street level, I felt a strange sense of completion. For months, I'd been the victim in someone else's story. Tonight, I'd taken control of the narrative and written my own ending. Erica's career at Zenith Digital was over. No company would keep an employee after that kind of public scandal. Kyle was finished too, and his marriage was probably beyond repair. They'd destroyed my trust, my relationship, and my self-respect. I'd returned the favor with interest. The elevator reached the ground floor, and Connor and I stepped out into the Seattle night. The first drops of rain were starting to fall, and thunder rumbled overhead. So what now? Connor asked. I looked up at the Columbia Tower, its lights stretching into the stormy sky, and smiled. Now? Now I get on with my life. Behind us, through the building's glass doors, I could see people streaming out of the elevators, still talking animatedly about what they'd witnessed. Some were laughing, others looked shocked, but all of them would remember this night. They'd remember the night Nate Sloane stopped being a victim and became something else entirely. The lightning flashed again, closer this time, and I walked into the storm with my head held high,